guys, and welcome back to the Cruel Room. We're here once again in this wonderful ranty room for all things Formula One. So the Azerbaijan Grand Prix has come to a close, and what could be said for that one? Oh God, what an absolute snooze fest that was, wasn't it? Jesus Christ, what a boring race. Unbelievable. Yeah, it was very, very dull. You know, it's a bad race when the most exciting moment of it is when Esteban Ocon nearly kills a load of press media people that are running around the pit lane ready to celebrate the winner because he's coming in to stop on the last lap. And he nearly squashes them all. That's about as fun as it got. And it shouldn't be fun. But anyway, here we go then. So if you've never seen this series before, I award the drivers out a maximum of 10 points based on their race weekend's performance, and I go all the way down to 0 if they have a particularly bad one. Take a look out for bonus points though. They're sometimes on offer for some drivers that do something extra special during a race, and on the rare occasion I do award minus points to some drivers that do something extra special, but for all the wrong reasons. So let's take a look at the current standings then going into this round. It's on the screen now for you to take a look at. We're 3 rounds in. It's sort of working its way out already early on now. We can see who the high chargers are and who are the ones that are going to be stumbling and struggling at the back. And yeah, have a look and think where your favourite driver will be come the end of this episode, because there's some drivers that did exceptionally well and some drivers that did exceptionally badly this race. So yeah, despite it being a snooze fest, the pecking order has been sorted out, hasn't it? So let's kick things off with the race winner, of course, then. It is Sergio Perez in the Red Bull. And what could be said for his race weekend overall? It was solid, wasn't it? It was a great weekend and a great fight back to prove that he really is championship material this season. Will he have it, though? Will he have it all his own way? I'm sure come later on in the season, Red Bull will do things to favour Max. I have no doubt about that. But for now, let Checo enjoy his glory once again on the street circuits. He's a street circuit master, isn't he, Checo? Most of his podiums have come from a street circuit. His race victories have all come from street circuits. It's a fantastic stat to have, isn't it? It really, really is. And once again, he delivered. He delivered well in the sprint race. Managed to nab a couple of points there away from Max Verstappen. And in the race overall, yeah, he got lucky with the safety car intervention. Max was the first to box, thinking the safety car might come out in that particular period, but it didn't. It came a lap later, and it favoured Checo greatly in that respect. Yeah, it was just one of those races where you think Checo deserved that. Despite the luck that went his way with the safety car, Checo did deserve it overall, and I'm very, very happy for him. That Australia weekend was such a dud, wasn't it, for him? It really was. But here he is picking up some crucial points this weekend and outscoring Max by 9, isn't it? Because he outscored him by 7 in the race and 2 in the sprint. So yeah, outscoring him by 9 points this weekend, and he brings the gap down to 7 now, is it? Is Max on 95 and Perez on 87? I believe so. Either way, I think that's roughly what the score is anyway. Would that be 8 points? Probably. But yeah, nonetheless. So for Checo this weekend, I'm going to score him a 9.5 on the cruel corner to him. A stunning effort, stunning job, and thoroughly deserved it. The only reason I'm knocking half a point off is because he qualified 3rd. It'd have been nice to see him ahead of his teammate or ahead of that pesky Ferrari that got in the way of Red Bull, wasn't it? But yeah, overall, a great weekend by Checo. 9.5 on the cruel room to him. Next up, we do come to Max Verstappen, and what could be said about his race weekend overall? Oh my, did he spit that fucking dummy out, didn't he, in the sprint race? Oh dear, Max Verstappen. He was so sure. Oh my God, he was doing my fucking head in. He really was pissing me off so much. So much. Oh my God, Max. Oh God, why are you being such a miserable bastard? I don't get it. And then I thought, oh my God, he's going to have a major kick-off in the race now because he's not won. But no, he was actually quite calm. So, redeemed him somewhat, but at the same time, yeah, he was an absolute moaning bitch, wasn't he, in the sprint race. So, for that reason, I'm going to award him just 3 points. And that's a generous 3 at that, because I did say we were going to start getting minus points. But overall, he redeemed himself in the race. He did redeem himself in the overall race, didn't he? So, you know, let's let it slide just for now. But a stroppy moany little bitch in the sprint race, and I didn't approve. So, yeah, 3 points to Max Verstappen. yeah, I think next time it's going to have to be minus points, maybe even of Latifi, to be honest. But he needs to pack it in. He really does. 3 points to Max. And then we come to Sha-la-la. Oh, Sha-la-la. Here he is, scoring P3 and Ferrari's first podium of the season. My God, that's been a long time coming, hasn't it? We were also expecting Ferrari to be so much better this year than they are, and they've been a bit of a dud, haven't they? He scored third in the sprint race as well, which isn't a podium, but at least it's nice, you know. Gets a little... Did they spray the champagne on that? I can't remember what they do in the sprint race. I was so uninterested in it. But yeah, nonetheless, he drove a pole position lap time as well. Let's not forget that. Over a single lap, he had the pace. Over race pace, he had enough for third, and I think that is a commendable effort. So yeah, well done to Sha-la-la. It's a perfect 10 to him. There's not much I can say, really. One, because it was a dull and fucking boring race. And the other is that there was no mistakes from Charles. We all saw what he did. He tried to defend from the Red Bulls as long as he could. But he knew the fight really wasn't with those guys. It wasn't worth losing time to the cars behind the Red Bulls. It was just stay with the Red Bulls, try and keep in DRS as much as possible, as long as possible, keep him behind for as long as possible. And he just did it. He worked it so well. So yeah, congratulations, Sha-la-la. A thoroughly deserving 10 points on the Cruel Room to you. In fourth place and not being awarded some trophies for the first time this season, it is, of course, Fernando Alonso. What a cracking drive once again by Fernando, though. He drove smart, didn't he? They were running around in that P7, P8 area for the first part of the race, wasn't it? And he was coming over the team radio. Lance was like, I'm not going to attack Alonso. Let's just save his tyres. Let's stay here. They relayed that back to Alonso, and Alonso's like, if he wants to have a go, he can. But yeah, we're all doing the same thing. Let's save energy. Let's save tyres. Let's really just utilise the life of the tyres towards the last stages of the race. And it worked out incredibly well, didn't it? Starting in that, like I said, P6, P7 area. And he crawled his way back up to fourth place because he just got past the cars that were struggling on their tyres because they'd used too much. Particularly Hamilton as well. There was that phase there, wasn't there, where Hamilton had just chewed his tyres up. And Alonso was like a rabid dog trying to get around him, really trying to fight and get past and get through. But it wasn't to be. He did get him, though, eventually. He did a great move on Carlos Sainz, and then he was just a few tenths away from Sha-la-la at the end there for that final podium position, wasn't he? But just ran out of laps, but he drove stunningly. So for Fernando Alonso, once again, it's perfect 10 on the Cruel Room to him. The way he relayed the team messages to him, and, you know, he was trying to work with Lance, and he was just so calm and collected, and he just knew exactly what he was doing in that car, didn't he? He was telling the team, yeah, this is fine, this is great, this is perfect, let's try this, let's do this, I'm doing this, is Lance doing that? And he just communicated so well, and he got a fantastic result for the team. It wasn't any trophies, but at the same time, this Aston Martin team with Alonso on board has been rejuvenated, hasn't it? And it's great to see, and it's nice to see Alonso, like, smiling. You know, it really is. So for Fernando Alonso, as mentioned already, it's a perfect end to him, and there's no more to be said. Well done, Fernando! In fifth place, it is Carlos Sainz, smooth operator. Smooth? Well, he weren't really that smooth, was he? That was a scruffy qualifying session by Carlos. Yeah, he just had a scruffy weekend overall, didn't he? Didn't look to have the measure of his teammate at all. Didn't look to be that comfortable with the car in terms of just everything. I mean, how many offs did he have in practice? I can't quite remember, but it was quite a few. Or was it even in qualifying? He was just always down an escape road, wasn't he, in one session particularly? He just couldn't get it together. Here he is securing fifth, though, which is a solid haul of points considering where that Ferrari's been for the first three races. And he didn't make any mistakes in the crucial race where the points are on offer, you know. He drove smartly, drove composed, tries to keep Alonso behind, but failed at that. But overall, you know, Carlos did a solid job, but it wasn't anything spectacular, was it? So for Carlos Sainz, it is just solid 7 on the Cruel Room to him. Yeah, like I said, I don't take anything away from Carlos this weekend, but Charles had it hooked up, and Sainz just wasn't happy with the car, and you could tell that, couldn't you? So it was on more of a conservative drive, so to speak, and just bringing home some solid points. And 10 points is worthy. You know, where that Ferrari is at the moment is certainly no disrespect to Carlos, but Charles just did a much better job. So yeah, 7 to Carlos Sainz. Then we come to Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes, and what could be said for him this weekend? 6th place on paper doesn't look great, does it? But I think Hamilton had a good weekend this weekend. It was solid, wasn't it? He drove well. It was as high as 5th, 4th, maybe even, dare I say, at one stage in that race. Qualifying was good, got through into Q3 where his teammate didn't. Yeah, the Mercedes just didn't look that fantastic, didn't it? He went backwards in the sprint race, unfortunately. He ended up finishing that race in 7th, whereas George was obviously a bit higher up and fighting with the Red Bulls. But in the race itself, I think Hamilton just did a much better job overall, really. And drove great. He drove well, did some good overtakes. One good overtake on his teammate as well. And yeah, overall, I think for Hamilton this weekend, I've knocked a couple of points off for the sprint because he did go backwards in that, but I don't think the sprint race is crucial, and I've not really referenced that much in this point scoring, I've got to be honest, because, you know, Max with the moaning, yeah, but he's been warned about the moaning before, you know. Whereas in terms of the race strategy and racecraft and things like that, unless you do something massively stupid, that sprint race really doesn't count for much, in all fairness, does it? I mean, yeah, I know there's a potential 8-point swing if your championship rival wins it and you're in the wall, but if that happens, then I will score accordingly. But when it's just for teams that aren't really there, they're there or thereabouts, slipping back to 7th, picks up a couple of points still, has a better race on the Sunday where more points are available, that's going to certainly offset the shitty sprint race he might have had. So I think I'm fair with this score with Hamilton overall. A good qualifying, a solid qualifying, out-qualified his teammate. The sprint race he fell back a little bit but still picked up points. And in the race overall, I think he did the best job he could with the car he was given. And was close to Sainz at the end there, wasn't he? But just couldn't find a way around him. So yeah, that would have been another couple of points he could have got had there been a few more laps in that race. So for Lewis Hamilton, it's 8 points on the cruel room to him. And I think that's a good score overall. Like I say, you know, I've knocked a couple off for that sprint, but I don't think that's much of a detriment to how the overall race weekend is perceived. And I might even think about just scrapping it and knocking it on the head, to be honest, and not even talking about the sprint race, because it is a standalone thing now. So therefore, technically makes it fucking irrelevant. And I still don't like him. But yeah, there you go. 8 points to Lewis Hamilton. Then we come to Lance Stroll, and what could be said for his race weekend overall. It was okay, but nothing special, was it? Once again, yeah, it's some good points, and yeah, he's not done anything drastically silly this season so far, but he's just, I don't know. The thing is, I can't criticise Lance because he is doing a job. You know, he is delivering some points, which is more than I expected going into the season. But you just look at where Alonso is, and I'm not trying to compare the two in terms of like experience. Of course I'm not, but there's drivers that have got less experience alongside a more experienced teammate that are delivering the goods. You know, for George, example, most of the time anyway, in that Mercedes, can match and rival Hamilton. You know, but in the terms of the Aston Martin, where it's his dad's team, it's Lance Stroll's dad's team, he still can't match Alonso, who we all thought was out of his prime years ago, and has really proven us otherwise. Certainly me. Yeah, it's solid, but it's nothing spectacular, is it? So this score references that, and it's a solid 7 for Lance Stroll this weekend. It's good. It's okay. It's picking up the points, but it's not phenomenal, is it? It's not fantastic. We're not going, oh wow, Lance. You're going, oh, he's picked up some points. You know, and for that reason, a solid 7, I think, is all I can really award. Yeah, that's it. That's enough said about it. But yeah, a solid 7 to Lance. Then we come to George of the Russell. Watch out for that top 5. And he's not in it. Not in it, is he? Not is it? Should it be top 10? Watch out for that top 10. I just don't understand it. The car was so bad last year, not bouncing around. You know, last year it was bouncing around, it was throwing itself here, there and everywhere, and George could not stop finishing inside the top 5. And this season, he's doing not as good, is it? He's not doing as good. He's still matching Hamilton on most days, but this weekend overall, in terms of the overall race, he didn't do as good, did he? The sprint race, he overalled Hamilton by a couple more points, didn't he? George finishing 4th, Hamilton down in 7th that particular sprint. And in the race overall, he qualified badly and was down in 11th. And here he is, finishing in 8th place overall, so picking up just a few points. He had a shit restart, and that was in his own words over the team radio. Sorry guys, that was a shit restart. And then the lap after, Hamilton just came straight by him. So, Yeah, tricky one for George, really. He had a better sprint than his teammate, but the points where it really, really does matter and there's a big swing overall is in the main race. And in the main race, he recovered some positions to finish in the points, but a poor qualifying for the main race, a poor race in the main race, means I'm only going to award him 6. 6 to George Russell this weekend. Yeah, not the best we've seen of him. In 9th place, we come to Lando Norris in that dog shit McLaren. That dog shite McLaren. What could be said for that race, really, for Lando? It was good that he picked up a couple of points, but this bottom half of the field's race was hampered because the likes of Ocon and Hulkenberg went onto the hard tyre strategy and stayed on those for all the race, really. And they got stuck behind them, and there was a massive gap between 9th and 8th of like half a minute, to the point where I forgot to mention that George actually came into the pits, came out ahead and set fast his lap. So yeah, you know, it was a big gap, big deficit, and they couldn't get around him because, you know, the McLaren is shite. And he did eventually worm his way through on Hulkenberg with about 6 laps to go, and then around Ocon with about 3 or 4 laps to go. But it was all over by then anyway. You know, it didn't make any difference. And 9th was the best they were getting for a long time. That safety car period really put pay to McLaren's strategy. Without that, they could have both been inside the top 10, I think. So yeah, Lando Norris overall is going to be 8.5 this weekend. As mentioned, it is a difficult car anyway to deal with. Compromised strategy, not their fault. It was the way the safety car came out, the cars that they had in between them with Ocon and Hulkenberg, and they just couldn't find a way around them for so many laps. It just ruined their race. But having said that, he finished in the best position possible after all of that happened. So it still has to be commended. So yeah, 8.5 to Lando Norris. And then we come to the final point scorer and my personal driver of the day. It is Yuki Tsunoda. What a fantastic effort by Yuki this weekend. He's driven so well, hasn't he? So well. Okay, we'll discount the sprint. He made that mistake. He ripped his wheel off. Then the team sent him out with damage. You know, that's a bit... But, as mentioned, the sprint race, it didn't really matter so much. He was out in Q1 in the sprint, wasn't he, because of the red flags and the timings of that. So it didn't matter. The sprint's irrelevant. For AlphaTauri, he had a stunning qualifying in P8 for the overall race. And then in the race itself, again, he was an early stopper before the safety car came out, so was compromised in that respect, which was unfortunate, but then still finished 10th and held off Piastri at the end. That is a crucial point for AlphaTauri, that, because that now puts them 9th in the standings. And Tsunoda has driven incredibly well this season, and no one can deny that. He has driven so well. And this one, where there was only one retirement in the race, he was on a compromised strategy where half the field had bunched behind him. You know, he could have easily lost his cool and had a crash and had a collision, but he didn't. He kept his head down. So yes, he did have the crash into the sprint, and that was unfortunate. But overall, where it matters, he delivered, and that point is a crucial one. So for Yuki Tsunoda, it is 11 points on the crawl room to him. He thoroughly deserves it. I don't think I've been singing his praises enough this season, despite him doing some great jobs here and there. And the last 2 races in a row, he's picked up a point. It has to be commended. So congratulations, Yuki Tsunoda. 11 to you. Just outside the points, it is Oscar Piastri. Oh dear. Do you know what though? Just outside the points in P11, and him being incredibly unwell this weekend. He said in an interview after the race he'd eaten 4 pieces of toast all weekend. That was all he could stomach. He was incredibly ill and drove that car around really well to just miss out on the points. Just. You know, P11 and on the back of Tsunoda at the end there. It has to be commended. He drove well with what he was going through, and in the car he was in. He was matching Norris really in some respects as well. Despite everything he had going on, I think it's an incredible effort. So yeah, congratulations, Oscar. It's a shame it's not a point for you, but nonetheless, 11th place, just a couple of positions behind your teammate, and dealing with severe illness. It's got to be commended. So he's getting 9 points on the crawl room this weekend. Yes, it's more than Lando, I know it is, but he matched his teammate and was incredibly ill. That's something, you know, that is something, and it has to be noted. How poorly he was and how well he raced. Yeah, I know the adrenaline kicks in, but you're still, if you've not eaten anything for 4 days, you're still going to feel that, you know. So, well done, Oscar Piastri. A solid 9 points to you, buddy. That was a great weekend overall by you. And had you been inside the top 10, I'd have been giving you bonus points. But as it is, just outside the points, is still respectable. 9 points to Oscar Piastri. Then we come to Alex Albon finishing 12th place in the Williams. And what could be said for his weekend overall? Solid. It was solid, wasn't it? Into Q2, qualified P13 for the main race. The sprint race, he tried and tried and tried to hold on to that P8 for as long as he could, but Stroll got him in the end there, didn't he? Which was a bit of a shame, but nonetheless, you know, that point would have been crucial considering AlphaTauri scored their point in the main race itself. But Alex did all he could with the car he had, and to hold off Aston Martin Stroll for quite a while has to be commended. Yeah, in the race itself, though, he pitted early, so was compromised and ended up in this split pack as everyone else was from 9th downwards. Stuck behind Ocon and Hülkenberg on the hard tyres, who went till the end on those. It was a bit of a shame. I think points in the main race would have been a little bit of a stretch anyway. But it'd have been nice to see the pack a little bit closer to see what Alex could have done. But as it was, P12 is still a great result for the car that really is, you know, close to the last car on the grid. I would say AlphaTauri and Williams are practically matched at the moment, but the luck just favoured AlphaTauri a little bit more this weekend, and Tsunoda's impressive qualifying performance just elevated him that couple of extra positions that he needed to secure the point over the Williams driver of Albon. So for Alex Albon overall, it's going to be 7.5 on the cruel room to him. Overall, you know, it was solid. And again, a solid weekend. I think he put a great effort in the sprint race to try and hold that point as long as he could. But it was a fight that I feel he was always going to lose. But he tried his very best, didn't he? And in the race itself, a compromised strategy. No fault of their own, no fault of the teams. Just the positioning of the safety car, the positioning of Hülkenberg and Ocon. It just meant that it was always going to be a weekend where it was going to be a struggle from then on. And I think 12th place overall is respectful. So yeah, a solid 7.5 to Alex Albon. Then we come to Kevin Magnuson in the first of the Haasers. And the Haas this weekend, you know, as I've said in previous cruel rooms and previous times talking about this team, sometimes they're really up and sometimes they're really down. And this weekend was a downer for the Haas squad, wasn't it? Out in Q1 with both cars. And in the race, K-Mag ended up being on a compromised strategy as a result of his own teammate. Like, a little bit of a shame that, really, wasn't it? A little bit silly by the Haas squad to maybe think of that. But again, it was all the timing of the safety car. It was unfortunate, I'm aware of that. But, you know, maybe they should have just jumped Hülkenberg out of the way sooner, so K-Mag had a chance at least, because once he got stuck behind that gaggle, nothing was happening, was it? So yeah, K-Mag overall, finishing in unlucky P13 really, and there's not really much of them can be said other than awarding him a solid 7. And I think that's very fair, because the car just wasn't capable. At least K-Mag didn't make any mistakes this weekend. He just kept the car on the road. It's development for the team, it's development for the guys, you know, it's learning, it's testing. But yeah, just a shame, isn't it? Haas could have had so much more this weekend, I think, had it just gone their way a little bit better. Had they not pitted K-Mag and left him out there, he could have had a free pit stop, been inside that top 8, not stuck behind his own teammate. It'd have been guaranteed a point or two then at least, wouldn't it? Because his teammate would have been holding everyone up. So, yeah, for K-Mag overall, it's a solid 7. Not really much more can be said about his weekend overall. Just no pace from the Haas, a compromised strategy, just overall unfortunate. Then we come to Pierre Gasly in the Alpine and just avoids a Latifi of the week, because that was a disastrous weekend, wasn't it? It really, really was. Had an engine fire in practice, then he crashed in qualifying, started at the back of the grid, didn't make any progress, and came in for about 14,000 pit stops throughout that race, and just really didn't do much at all. I think the only people that pitted more than him was the Alfa Romeos, which we'll come to shortly. But yeah, it was just a dud weekend by Gasly, only finishing ahead of his teammate because Ocon stayed out on the hards for so long, and then just had to pit on the last lap. They were trying something, they were hoping for a late safety car, a late red flag that just never came. Gasly's strategy was pretty much as everyone else's was, but couldn't work his way up into that 9th position, even with the split of the pack there. just a dud weekend. But yeah, I do feel a little bit sorry for him, and the reason why I'm not awarding him the Latifi is because he had that fire in the practice session, which obviously lost him the only practice running they had this weekend. So obviously he went into qualifying a little bit more blind than everyone else, made the mistake, lost track running as well in qualifying. Let's not forget, it's not just a qualifying session, but it had been wanting to put more laps in than usual to try and, you know, build up for lost time in practice. It just all had a knock-on effect. So just avoids a Latifi. But yeah, a very dud weekend by Gasly, who seems to be struggling, really, doesn't he? It must be said, in the Alpine. Yes, he had that amazing performance in Australia until the final shootout that they decided they were going to do, but apart from that, it's not been fantastic. So yeah, Pierre Gasly, un point on the cruel room. Just behind Pierre Gasly is, of course, Esteban Ocon, Gasly's teammate. And as mentioned, Ocon was really just left to the wolves, wasn't he? He was ready to be eaten alive. Yeah, they put him on a different strategy. He started at the back. He qualified 13th, actually, but had to start at the back of the grid for both the sprint and the main race itself, because they took the car out of part ferme to work on some suspension components, which was a different one. But nonetheless, meant he had to start from the pit lane in the end, as he did in the race. Was on the hard tyres, the safety car came out, they didn't pit, they were around the 9th, 10th area, stayed there, split the pack up, and then just stayed there, wait for something to happen, wait for something to happen, wait for something to happen, wait for something to happen. Nothing's happening. Right, on the last lap, let's pit. Oh my fucking God, what's all these cameramen doing here? What's these stewards and marshals doing here, putting the fucking fencing up for the Parc Ferme at the end? Get the frig out of the way. Yeah, so he nearly squashed some marshals and created his own drama because it wasn't happening in the race. That was fucking stupid, wasn't it? I mean, why on earth? They knew, everyone knew that Ocon had to make a stop, absolutely everyone. And just like, how sheer insanity was it that they were going to be like, yeah, start sticking fencing up, lads, if you like. Photographers would like to get round and start getting yourself into position. That'd be lovely, that'd be great, that'd be nice seeing it. Oh, fuck, there's a car! Like, fucking idiots, absolutely idiots. And do you want to know what's best about it all? We were watching via Sky commentary with that wonderful David Croft that's got no fucking idea what he's talking about most of the time. And do you want to know what he was more bothered about? Oh, God, like Ted's there shouting, oh my God, there's people in the pit lane and Esteban Ocon is pitting. And then David Croft shouts in, yes, but Ted, the Red Bull mechanics are on the pit wall. They're climbing over the pit fence and they shouldn't be doing that. This is ridiculous. The FIA have told them no. No, oh God, it'll be interesting to see what happens afterwards. Heaven forbid they get disqualified. Oh my God, it's going to be a team fight. Oh dearie me, oh delicious. And then there's Ted Kravitz in the pit lane going, fucking hell, shut up, David, you knobhead. There's people in the fucking pit lane that are on the track, like literally in the live lane of the pit lane. Like, get him out of the way, get him out of the way, there's a car coming, oh my God, this is sheer insanity, this is ridiculous. Oh, I know, Ted, I cannot believe it, but Ted, let me tell you this, there are Red Bull mechanics on the pit wall, oh no, oh God, I hope they don't get disqualified, oh God, oh no, heavens forbid. Shut the fuck up, David Croft, you absolute knobhead. Like, Ted knew what he was talking about, he's in the fucking pit lane. Shut up. Shut up, will you silly man. God, he just fumes. Oh, it fumes me. Absolutely fumes me. Riles me. Fucking David Croft. How has he kept that job for as long as he has? He's shite. He's worse than Jonathan Ledyard. And Ledyard was shite. Like, fucking hell. Anyway, that's enough of that. Esteban Ocon, that's what I was talking about, wasn't it? It's 6.5 to him. Because it was on a compromise strategy, it wasn't his fault, did what he could, and that's that, and nearly killed some spectators and some camera crew and some photographers and some marshals, and just great all round last bit of drama there, a bit like Death Race, wasn't it? So Esteban Ocon 6.5, David Croft, shut the fuck up. Then we come to Logan Sargeant in the Williams, and what can be said for the Williams? It was a disappointing weekend overall, wasn't it, for him? He got into Q2 though, which was a great effort, must be commended for that. And in the race overall, he started strong, was really like just a couple of positions behind Albon, but then he just slipped away towards the end. I don't think he could manage the tyres as well as Albon could, and fell to a lowly grid position really. I mean, finishing behind Ocon, who was on that compromise strategy, really shows how badly it went for Logan come the end of that race. But having said that, you know, I don't want to take too much away from him this weekend. It's a learning curve still. He's still got a difficult car to drive. He's not made any silly errors this weekend. Yeah, I know he crashed in the sprint qualifying session and then couldn't take the sprint race, but I feel like it's not really relevant to talk about. Yes, it is because he crashed the car, and I know that, but was he really going to get points in the sprint? Not really. So does it matter that much? Yeah, he damaged the car, but he didn't really, you know, kill anything. You know, he didn't ruin his chances of a fantastic front row grid start or anything like that, did he? So for Logan Sargeant, he's 6 points on the cruel corner this weekend overall for him. He's driven okay, but slipped away. He just couldn't manage the tyre life, could he? Which was a shame. So that's that. 6 points to Logan Sargeant. And then we come to Nico Hülkenberg, in the words of Danny Rick. And what could be said for Hülkenberg's race? He was very much like Ocon, wasn't he? He was just stuck there on the hard tyres, like, yeah, I'm in 9th, yeah, I'm in 10th, yeah, I'm here, yeah, and then he tumbled down the pack, and they just didn't pit him until the last lap. So, oh well, one of those things, isn't it? But yeah, for Nico Hülkenberg overall, it's going to be a solid 6 to him. Again, there's not really much I can do there. The Haas didn't look great this weekend overall. It did a good enough job, really, while his tyres were just about managing. But they did drop off with about 2 or 3 laps to go and fell to the back of the pack anyway and then had to pit. So, one of those things. But yeah, 6 points to Nico Hülkenberg. Then we come to Valtteri Bottas, and what could be said for his race weekend overall? He doesn't get a Latifi, but it's not been fantastic, has it? The reason he doesn't get a Latifi is because that Alfa Romeo was chewing its tyres up massively, wasn't it? It's been a disappointing season so far for Bottas. Apart from that first race of the season, it has been a disappointing one. But this one really lies with Alfa Romeo, I feel, as opposed to himself. Because both drivers out in Q1, both cars at the back, both cars making several pit stops in the race. It just wasn't happening for him, was it? I mean, they even stuck him on soft tyres at the end of the race to try and get fastest lap point and just take it off someone to make it look like their weekend wasn't completely pointless, you know, and they couldn't even do that. So, yeah, it was just a difficult one, wasn't it, really, overall? So, yeah, Valtteri Bottas finishing last of the runners. It's just 2 points, I'm afraid. I can't really judge it any better than that, because I'm sure if you'd have put another driver in that car, they'd have done better. You know, but it was just so difficult. That Alfa Romeo just didn't look like it had anything at all with it this weekend, did it? It was just a tough car overall. So yeah, an unfortunate 2 to Valtteri Bottas. And first of the retirements in this list, the last in the race, of course, it is Zhou Guanyu. And it was that lowly of a retirement, and that's how badly Alfa Romeo were doing. We didn't even take notice of the fact that the Alfa Romeo had retired. We just saw a quick glimpse of it in the garage, parked up, and then the team went, oh, and that's Zhou retired, and then that was it. It was a difficult one, wasn't it? Zhou Guanyu is getting the same as Bottas. It's going to be 2 points to him. As mentioned, the car was just chewing its tyres up. They made several pit stops. They had issues from like day dot, really, didn't they, really, to be honest? The weekend just didn't come right to them at all. They'd have been better up not turning up, to be honest. I mean, at least there wasn't any drastic damage or failures or anything like that, but it was a really, really pointless exercise being there. So yeah, big shame for Alfa Romeo. Just 2 points to Zhou Guanyu. And last but by no means least is, of course, Nick DeVries.
A few races into the season, and it's great to see my fellow Canadian doing well. Go Lance!
Oh, Nick. Oh, dearie me, Nick. What a shame. What a shame. He just didn't have it this weekend, did he? At all. Just did not have it. Yeah. Shame. Down escape roads, making damage, having accidents, out in qualifying due to a shunt. Yeah, just didn't look comfortable at all, did he? This circuit just didn't match up with him whatsoever. You know, and to make it worse, notice they're scoring a point, and, you know, DeVries, even without crashing, was already towards the back. And it wasn't a crash as such, was it? He just clipped the wall. Lance got away with it. You know, DeVries didn't. Clipped the wall, broke the steering arm, and that was it. Game over. So yeah, it's a Latifi of the week, unfortunately, to Nick DeVries. And I really had high hopes for the kid. the AlphaTauri looked like a pig to drive, and I thought, oh, you know, he's just got to get to grips. But I can't be sympathetic for very long, can I, unfortunately? And it is another Latifi of the Week to Nick DeVries, sadly. I love the kid. I think he, you know, deserved this chance in Formula One, but he's not proving anyone that he actually really deserved it at all. And he's been on the waiting list of Formula One for so long. It's just disappointing, isn't it? Because I think, you know, he's waiting for this opportunity to come and just keep coming, and like, oh God, come on, when's it going to happen? It's never going to happen now, right? Okay, well, I'll do Formula E, I'll get the championship in that then. And then he finally gets this chance to race in the Williams for one race. He excels and does incredibly well in an underdog car, securing a couple of points. And then this happens this season where, okay, he's still not in a good car, but we've seen what he can do. And it's just not coming through at the moment, is it? And when he's in the Red Bull environment, and they don't take too kindly to to failings, it's a shame. But they've given Tsunoda plenty of chance, and he's finally thriving. So maybe Nick, you know, needs that confirmation that he can have another year there, and maybe that will boost him. Who knows? But that's just me assuming there. But remains to be seen. But for now, it's a Latifi of the Week to Nick DeVries. So there we have it then. Those were the runners and riders of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Let me know your thoughts and feedback down below. Did I score any drivers too high? Any too low? It's at this point that you would see the updated scoreboard. But I am unfortunately sorry to say that Dan of Mushy Gaming, formerly Mushy Gaming, just running under Dan Bartlett now, he has tried to upgrade his computer. He's got a guy in to come and upgrade his computer systems to make them run better, faster, more efficient, and you know, so he's able to do more things quicker. And unfortunately for him, and I'm incredibly sorry for him as well, the guy that's come and done it has absolutely screwed it up and has practically ruined his computer. So at the moment, he is left with a computer that isn't working. And obviously he's understandably upset and angry about it, and as am I for him, really, to be honest. So there's no scoreboard at the moment on the screen for you, I'm sorry to say, and I'm sorry I'm letting you guys down. Dan's incredibly sorry he's letting you guys down, but it's for understandable reasons, and I just want you all to wish Dan well and let him know that we're not angry with him, we're not upset with him that he can't follow through with this, and we don't know how long it's going to be that we're not going to have a scoreboard, but I'm really hoping that I can start working on something if it's going to be long term, so I can keep it going. But you know, just for now, it's this one race. And I really do wish you all the best, Dan, buddy, if you're watching this, because I'm so sorry that this has happened to you. And no one deserves to go through anything like this. You know, your life's work in a computer, all your systems, all your hard drive, everything that you've got. I mean, his channel is a gaming channel that is built around his PC. And his PC's not working, so he's not even got content for his own channel either at the moment. So it's just an incredibly sad time. But please give Dan a lot of love and support in the comments. Go onto his channel, go subscribe to him, go check out the videos he has got up there uploaded. He did have a certain amount of backlog that he'd uploaded before he knew this upgrade was coming. So he might have a new video out. Just send him a load of love, outpour him with love, because, you know, it's a shit time at him for the moment, and I'm really sorry he's going through it. And, you know, he's gutted that he can't provide the scoreboard for you guys and for me, but it is one of those things, and this is what happens when you have the smaller YouTube channels working together. You know, this sometimes happens. You know, it really does. It does sometimes happen where, you know, we've not got the budgets of the big channels, unfortunately, and I, you know, strive to help, you know, try and make this series a community series. I have the help from Dave, of course, F1 Games Place, who makes the Latifi of the Weeks. I have Dominic Orlando doing the Latifi of the Week skits for you, recording those, the resident Canadian voice. So I try and make it and build it up to be a great community thing, and sometimes these things happen. It's the first time it's happened in the series history. I've had, of course, Matthew D'Souza doing the first scoreboard for me when I came back in 2020 during lockdown. So yeah, thank you to everyone so much for your love and support, and thank you to those guys that have helped the channel, that are continuing to help the channel. And yeah, thanks to Dan, as always, for his love and support with the series. And I know he'll come back with a scoreboard as soon as he can. So yeah, just bear with us, guys, please. But I'm keeping a mental note up here for me, and we'll update it as soon as we can. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you all in a week's time. Yeah, a week's time. See you soon. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. And as always, much love.